My name is Megan. This is my video blog, and this is my mom, Maureen, and I'm going to be interviewing her with some interview questions, which several parents reached out with requests to ask her about me and my childhood and education. So, how did you find out that I had Down syndrome? Was the professional delivered the news helpful?
You were born a little bit after midnight, and you were my third baby, so I was already kind of tired when I got to the hospital. And it was the strangest thing when, after I had you, they said, would you like something to eat or drink? You might not be very hungry or thirsty tomorrow. And I thought, gee, that's strange because I'm always hungry. And then they moved the lady that was in the room with me out of the room. And once again, I just kind of thought it was strange. But the next morning, our pediatrician, who was a wonderful doctor and still is, came in and informed me that he was 99% sure that you had Down syndrome. And at that time, I really didn't know what Down syndrome was. I had heard it called Mongolism at that time. And I asked him how he knew, and he gave me some little tips that you had a single crease across your palm, your ears were a little lower set on your head, and the shape of your eyes. So when they brought you in for me to nurse you, I looked for all those things, but to me you just look like my other babies. So that's the way I found out that you had Down syndrome.
Okay, a lot has changed in 30 years, and a lot of emphasis is placed on early intervention. What was it like when I was born? What therapies and services did I receive in early childhood?
I think actually you were born at a very good time, 33 years ago, because the whole community's viewpoint of Down syndrome was changing. They were just starting early childhood intervention. So by the time you were about 3 or 4 months old, we were already getting some therapy. And I always say it wasn't therapy for you, it was therapy for me. Because being around other families and other mothers who had children with Down syndrome was so good for me. I saw that it was just another way of raising a baby, and it was very reassuring and encouraging for me that I could do this if the other people were doing it also. But it was good for you too, I think, because they exercised you and moved you and everything like that. Sometimes I think we worked way too hard on the early childhood intervention, that we should have just relaxed and enjoyed you being a baby and did a little less trying to make you a perfect baby.
Okay, what was your school experience with me, and how did you ensure I was getting a quality education?
Well, I guess the school experience was varied. We had some wonderful teachers and educators, and we had some that weren't so wonderful. One thing about the time that you were born, we weren't sure if mainstreaming was the way to go or if self-contained classrooms were the way to go, and I'm still not sure on that. I'm still trying to decide how I feel about that. But we tried to have you in as many classes as possible that were mainstreamed, and it so much depended upon the students that you were in class with and the educators. We met wonderful teachers who wanted you in the class, and we met teachers who thought that you detracted from the class because you took a little more time to learn. So I had to be very involved with your IEPs. We had to be very on top of everything at school, and at times it could be frustrating, but it also could be very rewarding when we met someone who really felt like there was more to be learned from you, and to be shared with the class was a great humanizing thing. Then they thought they had to teach you everything in the curriculum.
Okay, and the last question is there any interesting and funny stories about me when I was growing up?
Funny stories, there's probably thousands of them. One of my favorite is you always were able to get around things and manipulate most people pretty well. So I remember when you went off on the school bus for one of the first times, when you got home that day, the bus driver stopped in front of the house and said, "I need to talk to you." And she said Megan took off her shoes and held them out the window and said, "I'm gonna drop these." And I said, "I'll talk to Megan about that." So that night we talked a long time about you can't take your shoes off on the bus and hold them out the window, that's not a thing that you would do. And I think you were about 4 years old at the time. So the next day I sent you off on the bus just praying that the same thing wouldn't happen again. And when the bus pulled off to let you off, I thought, oh no, because the bus driver called me over again. And this time you had not taken off your shoes and held them out the window, but you had taken off your shoes, taken off your socks, put your shoes back on and held your socks out the window and said, "I'm gonna drop these." So that's the way life has been. Every time I feel like I'm gonna beat my head against the wall, I wind up laughing and just totally enjoying the experience of Megan.
And we are more alike than different, and this is my video blog.